Hello, everyone. You're listening to the Small Business Show. My name is Swire Ho. You can also call me the promo guy. My guest today is Nick Loise from Sales Performance Team. Nick has been a salesperson, sales leader, successful entrepreneur, marketing and sales executive, president club winner, speaker, and author. His third entrepreneurial endeavor is Sales Performance Team, a company focused on helping small to mid-sized business improve their sales leadership, sales processes, system, and playbook. I'm so excited to have him on the show today. Welcome to the show, Nick.
Hey, Swire, thank you so much for having me. I got to get a much shorter bio. That's too much information I made you read. I apologize about that. Thanks for having me on, but most importantly, thanks for doing this. You're a champion of the small business community. I love that. I love all that you do, how you just give back, and listen, I love the promo guy. I got to come up with the sales guy. So I have the kind of the same thing that you do. So thank you again for everything that you do.
Thank you so much for the warm introduction, I guess, right? uh,
Yeah.
before we start, I love to dive deeper. How did you get into sales and what do you love most about sales after doing it for all these years?
Yeah, well, been doing it far too long, right? I was as young as you when I first started, and I always so I kind of grew up in a family of entrepreneurs, right? And so my favorite uncles were salespeople. I grew up in a community where there was a lot of small businessmen that owned businesses, and they were all salespeople. And I just knew I wanted to be a small business owner. I went to corporate America, right, to kind of get trained, but then I always knew I wanted to be a small business owner. And so, I kind of had a gravity towards sales. And in college, I started out in computer programming. And I was the worst computer programmer in the world. And I quickly got out of that. And I read a marketing book, and it just made sense to me, right? And I just knew that sales was going to be my thing. And so when I first got out, I went into a management trainee program, and then I said I wanted to be in sales. They said, "You're too young. We don't have 20-year-olds in sales." So I quit and got a job selling financial services, right? Because at the time, that was the only people that would hire somebody with no experience. And I was in a cube making cold calls, and just kind of grew an affinity for that, and saw the value of helping goods and services go to the marketplace and getting people solutions. And I don't say the trite thing like I'm a people person, and that's not why I'm in sales. I'm in sales because sales moves the economy. If nothing gets sold, nobody does anything. Nobody works. And I wanted to be on the front line and also control my destiny. And as a young man, control my income, right? And so that's why I'm in sales.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I think, bad salespeople give the sales industry a bad rep, right? When people think about sales, they will think about not picking on them, but like car dealership, right? They are
Yeah.
pushy. But if you talk to a real true salesman, I would consider Elon Musk as one of the top salesmen, right? When they actually sell you something, you don't notice, you just want to buy. Or Steve Jobs is, another great salesperson. Like if with depending on the level that you are, when you sell something, doesn't mean that you have to be pushy. You have to use all the crazy tactic that some people use.
Yeah, if you think about I think those two examples are phenomenal, right? But I just think of the people that you and I interact with every day that have sold us something, whether it's somebody that really takes an interest in us as we are trying to solve a problem with a product or a service. Even if it's at the Ace Hardware, right? So I'm in Chicago, we have Ace Hardwares, and I think they do a better job than some of the big box stores. But the guy or gal will find out what you want to do, find out what's the best solution, and then provide you with only that solution. And I think that's just true salesmanship, right? In the old days, it was probably more customer service, right? Now we've given it a fancy term and paid commissions on it. But I think it's helping people get to where they want to go through your goods and services, or through your products and services, or information, right? Nowadays, a lot of people are selling information. And I think it's mission critical that we, as a nation and as a group of entrepreneurs and small business, since we're talking about that, I think we have to embrace that and we really have to get better at it. And that's kind of what the mantra of my company is and my mission. What I see is the small businesses, especially when I give speeches or do things like this or talk to folks, a lot of small business people think sales is a dirty word,
Hmm.
and they don't want to get into that. And I don't know why, right? But maybe they have just a bad experience, or and I'm sure you may have seen this too. Some people maybe have come out of the corporate world and want to share their knowledge with the world. So they've opened up a shop, right? So they've become a consultant, or they've opened
Mhm.
up a shop, or they do something, but they don't spend the most amount of time on the most important thing, which is getting their name out, right? Through promo, through selling, through networking, and all that. And they have to realize that it's 24/7. You have to think about selling. Um, I had a guru, if you will, a mentor, if you will, a person I worked for, but really studied a lot and had opportunity to work with him. And he was being interviewed by somebody once, and the woman that was interviewing him said, a lot. I get this a lot from entrepreneurs. They want to know when they could take the pedal off selling, when they could take the pedal off of marketing, when can they slow down?
Which is
And he,
never.
and he said never, right? You beat me to the punchline. You're so smart. But he said never. You can never do that. You as owner of the business, your number one responsibility is to provide solutions to your customers, but also provide good, jobs to your employees. And that's, you have to stay on it 24/7. And, I don't know why it's gotten a bad rap. And I think your question is valid. But I think it's because maybe of the bad selling out there. And I think there's some industries in some pockets where I see it getting worse. And so we got to fix that as business owners.
Well, I think you set the table really perfectly for my question. And I know, one of the component you talked about it just now is you need to hire sales people now. And for most entrepreneur, even if you use that example for, maybe a corporate leader who are really experienced in what they do, now they're coming out for example, a consultancy firm, or maybe a baker, or maybe a really good service provider. They don't think that they need to sell. They would think that if we do good work long enough, people will come. And when they first hire, they will probably hire customer service or things that to help them do the job. But I think a lot of the small business, when they first thinking about hiring, it will not be a salesperson. Why do you think that is, and how can a salesperson add on and help the team?
So I think that's a great question. And I think they they need to, if they can't do it, they won't do it, they don't feel comfortable selling, that first hire needs to be a salesperson, right? It just needs to be. If not, the business is going to shut down. And I think what has happened, and the reason why they may have some level of hesitancy, is because of the fact that they've had their heart broken, or they've hired a salesperson that's full of promise, full of maybe BS, if you will, and they don't deliver. And so the business owner is probably jaded and has probably had their heart. I say that their business owners had their heart broken a little bit. Now, some of it might be that they didn't set the salesperson up for success.
Mhm.
Some of it might be that they didn't give the opportunities to support, the tools, the equipment, just the overall structure and environment to get the salesperson to where they need to go. But other times it's that they didn't go deep into the hiring process to make sure that the person on the other end of the interview can sell, and will sell in your environment. Right. And we see this a lot too. I Sometimes you see salespeople come out of big companies
Mhm.
and they really can't sell for small companies, right? They're
Yeah,
just used to all the support.
all the bells and
Or
whistles that they have.
right. And that, or I joke, and I was just talking to somebody about this on a different podcast, and we both were in complete agreement. Like let's pick on the tech industry for a little
Mhm.
bit. You see people that came out of Salesforce, right? Or Facebook or Google, and they can't sell other products and services because nobody sold Google or Facebook.
Yeah.
People bought it, right? And so they're used to being at the right place at the right time because of the brand and the strength of the brand. Now, if you're in an entrepreneurial, adventure, if you will, the brand probably isn't that strong. There isn't a market domination. And so you really have to be persuasive, and you really have to do a good discovery to figure out what the needs and wants are in the customers. And now you have to get them to trust you, to take that leap of faith, to use you and your product and services, versus everything else, including the status quo. And so I always work with entrepreneurs, and when we talk about hiring, you have to hire the right person, and you have to hire a person that has come from an environment where either they were number 2, number 3, number 4 brand in the marketplace, or are just used to being scrappy, or have worked for upstarts in the past. Because coming from large organizations, they're just used to building and selling on the brand. And that's what people are buying. So
what would you suggest small business owner to do? Like, you mentioned, providing a good description and really truly understand a salesperson. And as you know, a good salesperson, even if I know nothing about that topic, I can make it sound really good. And, I answer you, you probably don't know a word that I'm saying, but wow, they sounded really good. So what would you suggest? Like, what would be the first step to hire the right salespeople as a small business professional?
So I think the first thing, the process that we teach and we take all of our clients through and teach entrepreneurs is, first and foremost, put them through a pretty rigorous sales interview process.
Hmm.
And what I mean by that is not just do one peripheral interview, but have them sell you something, sell a product and service, give them objections, right? And see how they respond to the objections, see how their follow-up is, see what the process looks like that they're doing, see if they ask for next steps in the interview process, right? So if they say, okay, great, I really am excited about your opportunity, what should I do next? Or where do I see if they do trial closes, along the way, because that will tell you how they sell. The next thing I would do, and I think it's a must, is that if I was a business owner, I would take all of my salespeople through some level of evaluation, i.e. a DISC profile, right? But a DISC profile with sales. So a TTI DISC. I would do, there's a lot of other great ones, right? There's some very extensive ones that are expensive, but if you sell a very high price thing, you want to see if the person has tenacity. So I think some level of testing where they are, where they're motivated is, so where their head is, where their heart is, what their production is. That's the second thing. The third thing is I want to get deep on who they are and what their production is. And if the salesperson's giving you generalness of what they produced, or where they were on the leaderboard, or where they were vis-a-vis all the other people in the sales department, they're BSing, because every salesperson knows exactly where they stand on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly and a yearly basis. They also know exactly what they sold. They also know exactly how much their commissions were. And so I want to go deep on that. And I wouldn't let them just kind of kick the can down the road. I would be specific and go deep and deep and deep and deep. And I think the problem is that it's easy, or nothing's easy, but it's easier to hire a customer service person.
Mhm.
It's easy to hire a machine operator if you're in a manufacturing environment, right? It's easy to hire an accounting clerk that's going to send out bills and collect and that type of thing. That's pretty we understand those roles, and we understand the personality type, the head, the heart, all that we're looking for. Salesperson, it's different, right? They got to go out there and they've got to go create an environment, create demand, have perseverance, have drive, have energy, get kicked in the teeth, but able to come back to the marketplace over and over and over again. And it takes some knowing to do that. And the final thing I would do if I was a business owner and I wasn't a sales business owner, even if I was a sales business owner, sales-driven business owner, is I would go find a friend or a colleague or somebody in like a networking group or somebody that is a salesperson, right? And have them interview the salesperson. Because I use this statement, and a salesperson told me this once, and I've stole it from him, and I forget his name, but he, told me a long time ago. It's from a Western. A gun knows a gun. A salesperson knows another salesperson.
Yeah.
And I don't want you as the business owner to do, because you got some biasness in this. One is you think your product and service is the best, and probably it is, but perhaps there may be some challenges, and we become cognitive biased if we like the person. And so I want an outside third party to be able to ask some questions, see if that person is going to be somebody that could do what you need them to do, and just give an honest feedback. And so now you've done a lot of different things, but you also have done more than anybody else has for hiring a salesperson.
But I think the challenge, right? Speaking, again from the small business perspective, let's say you have a really promising salesperson. They will probably want to work for a bigger company
Sure.
than a small company, because obviously a bigger company can probably offer them more incentive resources, versus small business owner. You probably, if you are the first or second salesperson, right, hire, you probably like the farming cow, like you have to go out and farm, right? All the leads out there. How do you suggest that small business make their how do we connect with the better salesperson so they're willing to, help us?
So there's a lot of talent out there right now, right? You and I
Mhm.
were talking a little bit about that on the in the pregame. There's a lot more talent that we see in play than there was if you and I were doing this a year ago. Because the fact that there's, just companies are downsizing, salespeople have been ripped out, doesn't mean they're bad. It just means that they had to do a reduction in force. And so there's talent out there. The second thing I think you have to realize, and one of the benefits that small businesses provide that larger organizations don't, is that salespeople could have a say, right? They could have a say in the processes and the systems. They can make an impact on the organization. Their words will be listened to, and sometimes they'll be acted on. And so the salesperson that's coming into a smaller organization will feel like they are making an impact on that organization much more than a larger organization. And certainly money is a motivator for everybody that and what we do, right? Because we have basic needs, right? So Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we got to be able to provide them for our family and for who we are. And a lot of times salespeople use what they make, i.e. their income, has a value of self-worth. But it goes back to one of the questions that I had. If you look at the motivators of salespeople, really what's motivating them besides money. So a lot of times it's, no one really listens to me. I'm bringing, problems back from the marketplace and telling them what the customers are saying or what the prospects are saying, and nobody's responding to that. And so, salespeople today, especially the younger generation, they value quality of life, they value time off, they value everything else, where sometimes the older generations, it was just all about the money. And so I think as a small business, sometimes you could be a little bit more creative, right? You could help them provide what they want to help them provide. So you have that where handcuffs are in larger corporations, right? They got an HR department. They have to treat everybody the same way. A smaller organization can be nimble and can be creative on certain things.
Yeah, I really like that approach, and that it's exactly the example. Sometimes I use, why small businesses are better than larger businesses. For example, like you said, if a salesperson go out there, let's say keep on the tech industry, right? They said, I wish you have this function, on your SaaS software, for example, right? So if you're a smaller company, the chances that you could fix it on the fly, I think it's possible. Or even if you product-based company, I wish that you don't box it with, your box. I wish to be in red. So actually on the next batch, you could change it versus, a bigger competitor. It might take them years, really years, to be able to pivot anything else. So yeah, you're correct. And if you're able to connect with younger generation to the way that they want it to work, so I think you can still be about the same versus a larger competitors.
Yeah, I think, and if you think about it, listen, you and I are both sitting here and we are running small businesses. You and I are both probably selling to small businesses on a daily basis. If you think about most economies, the larger driver of the economy is small to mid-sized businesses, and that gets marked in different ways, right? Based on headcount or based on revenue or something of that nature. But small businesses are really the backbone of every community out there. And that's a benefit, right? So we should be waving that flag and using that to our advantage. And like you said, they have the ability to be impactful, not only from the customer's perspective, but from the organization's perspective. And I think, if you think about where you could add value, it's probably a smaller business that you could probably add direct feedback in, right? Now there's offsets, right? Sometimes, yes, the pay packages are a little bit more robust. Maybe the benefit packages are a little bit more robust. But as a small business owner, you got to be crafty, right? And you are crafty because you're in the marketplace every day, proving your worth and solving problems for your customers. Well, do the same thing for hiring salespeople, and that will make you better and able to retain really good talent.
Nick, I think this is a perfect question for you because you have both been a salesperson and you have trained a lot of sales team. I hear a lot of different talks about how AI would take over salespeople. We don't want pushy salespeople right now. What if a company can just input all the data with their product information into AI, and then they adapt with interaction on chatbots, right? So you never have to talk to a human being. It could all done be AI. Like, how would you respond to that? Is that even a valid question?
Well, every question's valid, right? And I think it's you should be thinking about it, right? And I think about it 24/7. I don't. There's a certain level. It goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where certain products and services are bought and other products and services are sold, right? And so, if you have a product or service that's bought, a certain percentage of the population is actively looking for it. If you read Chet Holmes's book, he will say 3%. Some people will say anywhere from 3 to 15%, right? So there's a certain percentage of the population that is looking for your solution. They may be served online in a chat environment, right? But we've all had backlash experiences in a chat environment. I think the only company that really, really does it well is Apple, right? But they eventually get you on the phone with somebody. So you're going to need somebody on the phone to do it with you. I think AI can provide some great solutions in the sales process, right? There's a lot of great things. I mean, I'm sure you do it as well as I do. You got Fathom Note Taker, right? So while you're doing a Zoom call, you're taking, and you could train that to get to what are all the key points that I should be asking. And now you generate a post-call call review email to the prospect. So that is done phenomenally with AI. And I think it's going to get better, right? It's not going to
Mhm.
get worse. I think I was just talking to somebody, we were talking about creating ideal customer profile, right? So
Yeah.
ICPs or avatars or something of that nature. Well, you could use AI to really create and go deep and deep and deep and deep on your ICP, right? And you could even take this, and I haven't tested it, but I've heard you could take emails and you could have AI write emails based on the different profiles or archetypes or personality types that your prospect is. So if I have
Mhm.
a driver personality, my email should be substantially different than I have an analytical person, right? A salesperson isn't going to do that. And some marketing people won't do that. But AI will do that for us, right? And so prospecting, there's things that AI is going to do that I think are going to make us better as sellers, right? I think it's just like it's going to make medicine better, and it's going to make college students and college professors better because they're going to learn how to interact with it. I think that you as a salesperson or you as a business owner, I don't think you're going to never not need salespeople, but where you will lose sales if you don't have a sales process and salespeople that know how to use AI, right? So I would be using it as my strategic advantage and not fear it. But no, I think, listen, I was having dinner with one of the smartest guys I've ever worked at, right? This guy worked at NASA, he worked on Wall Street, he's run hedge funds. And we said, what jobs will never go away because of AI? I thought about it. He's like, you always need salespeople. There's always got to be people to pick up the phone and talk to other people to move products and services, whether that's bits and bytes, whether that's, whatever that is that you're selling, you still need salespeople. He said other stuff will go away, right? If I was just reading, I'm sure you saw this too, and your audience probably knows this. I mean, I think Jamie Dimon said our internal AI provides better analytics than a junior analyst, right? So
Yeah.
that junior analyst won't be around anymore. They'll get rid of that job. Now, hopefully we get up level that talent, right? But all the people that are junior analysts coming right out of college, with MBAs or maybe a degree in finance that took that first job, they're not going to be needed, right? So there are jobs that will become extinct, but the sales, no, you're stuck with us forever.
I remember having similar conversation with a guest on the Small Business Show, and we actually talked about it was before ChatGPT really become mainstream. Like we talked about the online ghostwriter, copywriter.
Sure.
I remember specifically their comment was, ChatGPT is going to probably wipe out all the lower level copywriter and then script writer because once you put in the prompt, ChatGPT will come out in 2 seconds, right? So like in the salesperson, probably if you're service level that you could be replaced, yes, people are going to replace you. But if you are higher level, if you are a presenter, if you can move millions of products, or imagine when Steve Jobs was alive, he go on one presentation, how many millions of products he moves. And when you talk to a really great seasoned salesperson, when they go on a seminar, when they go on maybe an event, where they interact with a client, I don't think you could do that with AI yet, and when you listen, don't think about, salesperson is one that do like 100 cold calls and meet the quota. Yes, those are available, but then salesperson go way beyond that. And then we still need the good ones, and AI, I could clone Swire like 3-4 times better with AI versus without AI Swire. I think that's a good thing that I think, having all these tools available to me now.
Yeah, I think you said it very elegantly. I'm going to be better because of AI, right? Swire will be better, Nick will be better,
There are more
whoever.
Swire everywhere.
Yeah, you embrace it, you're going to own it, right? And you should embrace it as a business owner, right? Because it is going to be utilized. It's going to be utilized and just like there's really good talent that is very inexpensive overseas, you should be utilizing that, right? You should be utilizing offshore talent for things that and just up level all the talent that you can find locally in the United States. So, I think, listen, you and I are old enough to remember Max Headroom, right? And that people thought that was going to be the world of, there was going to be this talking head that would solve all the problems. Well, that was in the 90s or the 80s, and we're still here today, and we're still trying to figure it out as humans. So, machine learning is great, but you still need humans.
Mhm. So we touch on AI, Nick. What are other tools that that could share with us that are able to help us grow sales? Are there things that certain things that you can think of?
So I don't think that I think salespeople and to grow sales, getting really, really, really good and tightening up on the sales process. I think that salespeople get sloppy, and I don't think that we drill it enough. And it goes back to AI. I think AI could help with sales coaching, right? You could load up transcripts of calls, and they could see what's going on and what are the common objections and who's doing well to respond to those objections. And you got to hit these 5 points, and you only hit 3 of these points, right? So there's the utilization of AI and sales coaching to get really good at where you need to go. And if I'm a business owner and I have salespeople, I got to figure that out. And maybe it's not me to do it. Maybe I need to hire somebody, or maybe I need to find technology to help with the sales coaching, because that's going to move the needle, right? Any study you see, it moves an increase in win rates from 26% to 30 to 40%. That's something you could do very inexpensively as a business owner to drive sales tomorrow. Right. So get sales coaching in place. The other thing I think we need to do is teach salespeople how to sell to different personality types. And there's tons of books on it. There's tons of literature on it and education in that. But you have to realize that if you're selling to an analytical buyer or a driver buyer or a people buyer, an intrinsic buyer, whatever that is, you have to really sell that process and systems. And I don't think enough salespeople do that. and they have a one size fits all strategy, and they just keep on hitting that. The third thing that a person could do to really improve sales is take a look at your sales playbook, or what we call your sales process, and see where things break down, see where things get languish in the pipeline, and really working on improving your sales process. There's a great book, and it's called The Goal, right? And it's really about the theory of constraints. It's a manufacturing book, but it's really a lot of the way that we look at the sales process of what is causing constraints in the sales process. And how do I remove those constraints so that way I could constantly feed and move things through faster and faster and faster and faster. And that's not just for sales, but it's also in marketing and things of that nature. So always be looking for where are the constraints in your business, where are the constraints in your sales process, and how do you remove those constraints? So I think those are 3 to 4 things that anybody could do easily tomorrow, and if not this afternoon, to help them drive some sales.
Yeah, I really like that answer, Nick. I think by having rules, and obviously there are different style and philosophy out there for sales process, but having rules and then stick with it really helpful. Like you don't see it, but then I also have like the list of question and then the list of things on my monitor that I go through with all every single my sales call. I think I was working with a sales coach, and I think one of the key takeaway and that it really changed my process is, he told me that you should let the client talk more. Like
Yeah.
as a salesperson before, I have all my information, I product them everything that I know to them without them asking. So kind of flipping that, ask them the right question, and let them tell me what they're actually going through. I think with that rules and process, it changed my sales closing rate a lot, because I'm now listening more than I talk. I think by just switching that, it just that single rules, it helps. Obviously, depending on the business that you're in, different process, maybe different coaches, different mentality will be able to benefit. But do you have a system and keep the system in place?
Yeah, I think that's really smart. I think there's some technologies that you could put on, that will show you how much you talk versus the others.
Yeah, I
Whisper's
use that.
one.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so that will show you that you talk for 90 minutes out of 100, and you're like, oh my gracious, I gotta change my thing. So I think using technology would be a fourth thing to really make you better and to really be more engaged. I think we don't. It's a skill, but we don't teach it really. And I think what you said, Swire, was so spot on. It's engaged listening, thoughtful listening, right? Asking really good questions and waiting and listening, because we sometimes ask questions and we wait to answer, right? And so how, listening to the other person and really driving home what they are saying and go deeper on that, I think could make us all better people, better communicators, but also better salespeople.
Yeah, and I think especially for younger people doing sales, you're armed with all the information, right? You're armed with certain discount and incentive. Like if people don't ask you and you spill everything, then you have nothing left. So it's
Right.
kind of like playing poker. You know what you have, and if they don't call for it, you don't have to show it. So I think it takes time and it takes a certain personality and practice, right? You don't want it to spill the entire briefcase in the beginning of the meeting.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's old David Sandler. Don't drop all your marbles in the lobby.
Well, so Nick, I know that we're getting into scenarios that are personal and specific for each businesses. So if people and listener wanted to reach out to you, what would be a best way to connect?
Well, we're running this on LinkedIn, right? So you could hit me up on LinkedIn. You could hit hit me online. You could send me an email. We've got some bonuses for people that are listening, right? So we created an audit, which is about 88 things that you should have in your sales process and your sales system. Probably need to update that, right? But it's we did it at the beginning of the year, So it gets better and better and better. We keep on adding to it. So just go to salespack.salesperformanceteam.com. Got a copy of our book, right? How to manage sales teams. And we give away as much as anything. We're huge educators, right? I think, I grew up, my mom was a teacher. I've taught on the graduate school and the undergraduate school level. And I'm a firm believer that it's tough being a small business person, right? It is tough. And I think there's a lot of information. I'm not saying it's good information out there, but there's a lot of information. So we want to provide a lot of really good free information for people so they could go online and get that, and we'll send it to them. And if they want to talk to us or they have a specific problem, just reach out. We're here to help. We're here to help.
Thank you so much to coming on to the show today, Nick. I learned a lot from you.
Thank you for having me. And I mean it what I said it when we started. I really, really believe this. You are a champion of the small business. I love the name of your show, The Small Business Show. I love all the thought that you're doing. I love the fact that you named yourself the promo guy. That's really, really smart. But thank you for being such a huge champion for small businesses. And like I said, there's a lot of really bad apples out there and a lot of really bad information, and you are the source of good information and solid information, and you do it with passion and care. And thank you.
All right. Thank you, Nick.